In criminal profiling, serial killers are usually cast as outcasts, living on the fringes of society. Like rats in the gutter, burying their sins in remote wastelands or damp basements. But in the 1980s, in Hurricane, Utah, the most gruesome slaughterhouse sat right in the middle of the busiest street in town. It had bright neon lights, cheap pizza by the slice, and a band of animatronic animals singing to hundreds of kids every single day. Freddy Fazbear's Pizza. The co-founder of this establishment was a man named William Afton. To the public eye, he was a slightly overweight, mild-mannered genius of mechanics, a successful businessman. But in the highly classified, unsolved case files of the police department, he was a monster who executed slaughter with the precision of an industrial assembly line. He didn't have fangs or claws. His weapons were blueprints, gears, and meticulously calculated physics. The origin of all this evil stems from Afton's proudest industrial marvel, the Springlock suits. Designed as a yellow bear and rabbit, these metal suits had a staggering dual function. They could operate as fully autonomous performing animatronics, or by cranking back a dense network of internal spring locks, the endoskeleton could be pushed to the edges, hollowing out the center for a human to wear. From an engineering standpoint, it was a brilliant design. But from an ergonomic standpoint, it was a metallic iron maiden waiting to go off. Afton casually left a warning in the internal employee training tapes. The spring locks were incredibly fragile. The slightest bit of moisture, a single drop of sweat from a sweltering performer, or even the condensation from a nervous breath, would cause the mechanical threshold to fail entirely. Hundreds of razor-sharp metal components would snap back in a fraction of a second, carrying tons of crushing force. They would instantly sever your vocal cords, ensuring you couldn't even scream for help. Then, they would puncture your lungs and crush your rib cage and spine. William knew exactly how lethal these suits were. Yet, his absolute favorite thing to wear was the yellow rabbit suit known as Spring Bonnie. Because the suit capable of turning an adult into minced meat with terrifying ease had a fatal, magnetic appeal to children. In 1985, 5 children vanished without a trace inside the pizzeria. No blood, no signs of struggle, and no bodies. The only lead the police had was a blurry figure in a yellow rabbit suit on the edge of the security tapes. William was the prime suspect, but was ultimately released due to a lack of physical evidence. So where did he hide the bodies? The answer pushes the limits of human physiological endurance. Months later, the pizzeria received a flood of complaints from furious parents. They weren't complaining about food poisoning. They were complaining about the animatronics singing on stage. Parents reported that dark red blood and yellowish-brown mucus had begun to ooze from the eye sockets and the seams of the animatronic bear and rabbit. Worse still, if you got anywhere near the stage, you were hit with a thick, nauseating stench. The smell of rotting flesh. William never disposed of the bodies. He forcefully stuffed those children straight into the gear-filled, motorized metal endoskeletons. If you think this was just the sick fetish of a psychotic killer, you're underestimating the sheer madness of William Afton. Later investigations uncovered Afton Robotics, a hidden underground facility. He wasn't killing to satisfy an urge. He was killing to extract. He discovered that when a person dies in a state of sheer, unadulterated agony and terror, their soul manifests and fuses with the surrounding metal, creating a substance he called Remnant. This was his key to immortality. To harvest this substance more efficiently, William designed his second generation of machines, the Funtime series. On the surface, they were glamorous circus mascots. But the hidden blueprints revealed the truth. Funtime Freddy's torso had a built-in storage tank large enough to hold a child. The animatronic's internal audio systems were programmed with a voice mimic feature, perfectly replicating the voices of victims' parents to lure them in. Their fingertips even housed inflatable decoy dispensers. He turned murder into a fully automated assembly line. But this cold, calculating machine ultimately devoured his own daughter. Out of pure childhood curiosity, little Elizabeth got too close to the animatronic known as Circus Baby, and a mechanical claw instantly shot out from its stomach, dragging her inside. William's fate ultimately came full circle, driven by the most ironic twist of physical laws. Years later, on a night of torrential rain, he returned to the long-abandoned, leaking pizzeria. Cornered by the vengeful spirits of the children who had finally broken free from their mechanical prisons, this self-proclaimed genius made one unforgivable, amateur mistake in a moment of absolute panic. He put on that old discarded Spring Bonnie suit. The one sitting in the safe room, heavily rusted and covered in mold. He thought the metal shell would protect him from the ghosts. He even let out an arrogant, mocking laugh from inside the mask. And then, a single drop of rain leaked through the ceiling and landed right on a rusted mechanical gear. 14 seconds. That's how long it took for the Springlocks to completely shatter, slicing William Afton from a living, breathing man into a shredded mess permanently stitched to a metal endoskeleton. 30 years later, when urban explorers finally broke into that sealed safe room, they didn't find a human skeleton. They found a rotting, rusted, foul-smelling mechanical rabbit. And that thing was still breathing. They call him Springtrap.